Integrated Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission (IOC) of UNESCO from 2019 to 2021, co-chair of the International India Ocean Expedition 2 Steering Group from 2015 to 2022, and chair of Indian Ocean Global Ocean Observation System (IOGOOS) from 2017 to 2021. He was a member of Executive Council of the International Association for the Physical Sciences of the Oceans, IAPSO, IUGG during 2011 to 2015 and also 2015 to 2019. Since 2014, he has served as a chair of IUGG's Union Commission of Data and Information. And since 2022, he has also been the National Vice President of Vigyan Bharati. With this brief introduction, I would like to invite Dr. Shenoi to present his talk on the interesting topic, can we overcome climate change with the same thinking that created it? Over to you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, very good afternoon. Thank you very much for an elaborate introduction. I must thank Dr. Janashilan, whom we met in IAC Bangalore a couple of weeks ago. And then he asked me, why don't you come down? And because I am just spending some of my time now in Thane with my grandchildren. So he told, anyway, you are here, so why don't you come down to Pune? And also, I gave this talk in IAC Bangalore on last month, 18th. So Dr. Ganashilan also happened to be there. So he told it will be good if you can give a talk in IITM as well. So I thought, okay, it's a good opportunity to meet old friends as well and visit one of the great institutions again. And let me thank Director Dr. Surya Chandra Rao as well for hosting me here. I am going to talk something very different. If you are expecting, I am going to talk model or any results of climate change, please don't think like that. So I am going to talk about the title itself. Actually, you can see that can we overcome climate change with the same thinking that created it. We know there is a climate change going on, and whatever it may be the reason, industrial revolution or emissions from the vehicles or whatever it is. But there is a thinking process because human race progresses through the thinking, and then that collective thinking makes us to progress in a particular fashion. So what kind of thinking or what went in creating this kind of climate change in the world? And actually, it is not my research work also. It is just my thoughts based on the thoughts of some of the great thinkers. I just got them together so that I could present as a talk. So it's not even, I'm not a philosopher like those who give those philosophical talks. So I thought I will, it tickled my thoughts. So I thought that I will put out these thoughts to others in the form of a talk. So the title is Can We Overcome Climate Change with the Same Thinking That Created It? In fact, I must say that I stole that title from, I will show you at the last slide from where I have stolen. So you will know that what led me to coin that title, because I was wondering how to put out this title. So I came across somewhere. Then I thought that let me steal from there that idea and coin this talk. I will show you that at the end. So we know that our Earth system has several spheres: atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, cryosphere, and biosphere, where we are part of that biosphere. And we also know that the mutual interactions between these spheres keeps this Earth going. So if one of them act differently, then every sphere is getting in trouble. If hydrosphere acts differently, then atmosphere also gets in trouble. Lithosphere, biosphere, everything is getting in trouble. So actually, the life exists on this Earth because of the climate is favorable, and because of the interactions, positive interactions between these various spheres, and the natural variation among them, that takes care itself when there is a natural variation between them. And again, disruption in the natural balance or variability in one component causes a disruption of the balance and amplifies the variability. That is what we all know that, and that's what is happening. But over the past 300 to 350 years, maybe from 17th century onwards, we have witnessed remarkable advances in science and technology. The science developed that time in the West, especially the scientific developments are marvelous. And it led to the innovations. Several things were innovated, and which have fundamentally transformed every aspect of our life and our relationship with this world itself. That's the truth. So we advanced a lot, and as it goes, our relationship with this Earth also has kept on changing. But the issue is the developments have undeniably improved the human life. There is no doubt about that. So we have more comfort, more ease of life, etc., etc. And it became increasingly evident that they have also contributed new and complex environmental challenges. And the climate change is one of that challenge, actually. So in 1896, one of the Swedish scientists, Svante Arrhenius, he claimed that the combustion of fossil fuels, this was the first time it was marked that the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is going to lead the warming of the atmosphere. Actually, he was doing the research to find out the little ice age or the ice age, why that ice age came, what caused that warming, etc., etc. And as a byproduct of his research, he found that because the carbon dioxide can increase, it can become like a greenhouse. It can increase the greenhouse effect and can increase the temperature. His calculation showed that doubling the carbon dioxide concentration would cause a 5-degree increase in the temperature. And he and his colleague Thomas Chamberlain calculated that human activities could warm the earth by adding carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So it was very clearly known in 1896, adding carbon dioxide will warm the atmosphere and thereby the earth, the entire earth system itself. And this was flagged. But there was no much alagula about that. And we continued with adding this carbon dioxide. But sometime in 1972, there was a big conference in Stockholm, and that brought about 120 countries together. I think that was the first concerted effort, isn't it, Dr. Upakumar, towards the climate change. And the world flagged that issue. There's going to be a climate change. And now we have to be very careful. We have to act together. Otherwise, it can lead us to the trouble. So the central theme of Stockholm Conference was only one Earth, and emphasizing finite nature of Earth's resources and the shared duty of all nations to protect the environment for current and future generations. So that is what it was decided. So the 1972, the issue was flagged, and that was one of the first formal official conference in the world which flagged that issue. And the key outcomes were guidelines were formed, something like 26 guidelines were formed, and UN Nations Environmental Program was established to tackle with the climate change, blah, 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 all those things are done. And it was considered as one of the historic milestones in the human race to contain the climate change. Then again, after 20 years, again, this time, not only the countries, heads of the countries. So 178 countries came together, heads of the countries came together in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and decided that something has to be done about the climate change, and we had to take strong actions on that. And several declarations and treaties were made. The formulation of a 27-point charter outlining global environmental commitments were done. So everybody agreed that these are our commitments. We will follow this. And the key objectives were environmental protection, sustainable development, strengthening international cooperation. So these three key objectives were agreed, and everybody agreed that we should work towards that to achieve these objectives like environmental protection, sustainable development, and strengthening international cooperation. So it was agreed of that. So I just search on, you can do on the Google, just I searched on the Google, what are those major conferences? And I could get in the first frame itself about 24. I have just shown there. So that means since 1972, almost every year we are meeting, or at least every alternate year there was a meeting. So many meetings, protocols, then Kyoto Protocol, etc., was formed and put up, and commitment was recommitted or committed or renewed the commitment. All these things we are doing over the past 50 or 60 years since 1972 onwards. And new words are coined: development, sustainable development, environmental development, inclusive development. So each conference brought a new terminology, and we very happily we discussed about these terminologies. As in India, we have a Sahasranam for every Devi Devata. So like that, we coined many of these very catchy words like sustainable development, inclusive growth, environmental justice, etc., were coined. And also, World Meteorological Organization formed IPCC. AR6 was done. Now I think already AR7 process has started to make the assessment report of the climate of the Earth. And IPCC's main activities are to prepare comprehensive assessment reports on climate change, its causes, impacts, and response options, and methodology reports providing practical guidance to parties of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, including preparation of national greenhouse gas inventories, then special reports on topics that inform the assessment reports, etc., etc. So this effort also has been taken, and that is that also is continuing. And then the Kyoto protocols, like which fix the only this much only you should emit. So quantitative numbers are given. Each industrialized country should set average 5% below the 1990 levels. Everybody agreed, signed the documents. And the latest was Paris Agreement, which recently US withdrew. But other countries are still party to this Paris Agreement. And there we set the target that by end of this 21st century, that is 2100, we will not go beyond 2 degrees. And we will make all efforts to make it 1.5. This is the target which has been agreed at the Paris Agreement. And for that, each country should cut down on the emissions, blah, blah, blah. All those things are discussed and agreed there also. But since 1972 or 92, at the Rio de Janeiro, we agreed on those 3 objectives. And today in 2025, if we look in place of strengthening international cooperation, we have a big problem of international terrorism. We have at least 2 wars which are going now, one in Ukraine and another one in Gaza, Israel. And there are other issues. Even last week, there was an issue between Myanmar, Cambodia and Thailand as well. So there are, so where we are, then did we strengthen the international cooperation and in place of sustainable development, disruption of ecological balance? If you look around anywhere, we see that instead of sustainable development, we have achieved disruption of the ecological balance. And in place of environmental protection, growing concerns about climate change. So we have now AR7 now, or IPCC is going to come out with the next report, etc., etc. So this is where we are standing now. In spite of all our efforts since 1972, the serious efforts since 1972 to contain the climate change. So if you look at the data now, we are already 1.5 now in short term. Already we cross 1.5 degree by November 2024 itself. And even in long term, and if you look at the warming trend, earlier during 1901 to 1924 data, if you take, we were warming by 0.06 degree per year and per decade actually. But now we are experts. We started warming at a much faster rate, about 2.2 degrees per decade. So that is the rate at which now we are warming. So did we achieve our goals then over the last 50 or 60 years? Not only we could contain that or stop, we are even increasing that as the time goes on. So we are in 2025 now. And this is the graph which has been put out at the Paris conference. And as per the Paris Agreement, now we should have peaked by 2025, and we should reach. We should go by this green. This if we want to reduce, stick to the 1.5 degrees centigrade, and if we want to reach 2 degrees by 2100, we have to follow this this curve. Are we? Can any of you think that we will reach there anywhere at this rate? We are not going to reach there now. That is very, very, very clear now. And if you look at the long term, 30, because IPCC agrees only if 30 years that warming is consistent. So if you look at 30 years, the projection is that 1.5 we will hit sometime in 2034 itself, and 2 degrees looks to be unattainable. That's what it looks like now. So as per present trends, it is likely to happen between 2030 and 2040, 1.5 degrees. It is not very far. Most of us and most of you will be working in this institute itself when that happens. And the WMO, one of the WMO reports says greenhouse gas concentration surged again to new record in 2023. So this is what it is happening now. So in spite of all those conferences and coining new and new terms, this is the reality. We have to accept that reality now. That's what it has been happening. And as for the indicators, global climate change indicators, annual update, this I think it is from WMO has put out this. They say that the world has heated up by 1.35 degrees centigrade since pre-industrial times. And the current rate of warming is an alarming 0.27 degrees per decade now, not even 0.2. We have reached 0.27 degrees per decade. And since global greenhouse gas emissions are in drastically reduced, we will shoot towards catastrophic 2 degree of warming earlier than 2100. These are all reports from WMO itself. And the hopes of keeping long-term warming within 1 degree centigrade are bleak. It's not bleak, it's not possible now, because by 34 itself, we will reach that number. So to achieve this goal, world has to burn only this much, but already we are burning, or our quota is already we have exhausted now, how much we can burn. And since this is not going to happen, so best thing what we had to do, we had to say that, okay, let us forget about 1.5. Now let us look at 1.7. So that is what we are following. And since AR6, this cartoon shows the changes from AR6. Carbon dioxide was 410 that time, and now it is 422. In June 2025 it is. So after AR6, our achievements, this summarizes that. Since AR6, which was put out in August 2021, this is the state where we are now. In most of these parameters, we have achieved a lot since AR6 itself, and these numbers, what we are reporting, the recent paper which appeared recently, it says that you are talking about so much emission, so much of this, and those inventory preparations from IPCC also doesn't tell about how to calculate the emissions or contributions of each war. So they have shown that even the recent Israel-Gaza war itself has put out about 32.2 million trillion tons of 2 million tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which is equivalent to annual emissions of 102 countries. I don't know which are those countries. It must have been listed in that paper, I think. So that paper clearly says that only going by emission and industrial output alone is not enough. So actual what is there is much more than what we are perceiving now. So that amount of carbon dioxide or greenhouse gas which we have put out in the atmosphere is much higher than what it is, what these numbers we are dealing with. So they note that the emissions of militaries are grossly underreported, and that their calculations point to the urgent need for increased visibility and mandatory reporting of military emissions for both war and peacetime. I hope AR6 will look into this aspect as well. Then in that case, maybe from 420, we may jump again now. Especially this last few years, we have added much more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere because of these wars. And again, now everybody expects more and more wars, not less and less wars in the coming years. So what we do, we shift the goalpost. We say that now 1.5 we miss, so we will go to 1.7. So it is like in a football match, we are always winners because we change the goalpost. We push it back and back. So we can say that, oh, the other team has not scored over us, so we are winners. So that is what we do. We go and push that goalpost. So I'm not a pessimist, of course. So the critics, they say that this is a festival of hypocrisy because almost every year or alternate year we meet, we discuss, we coin new terms, and we set goals which are unachievable, and then we change the goalpost every time. So that is what is going. So they say that this is hypocrisy. To certain extent, the Trump is right in that way, I think. But of course, he don't believe in climate change. At least I believe in climate change. So that, but and they also show this these graphs that earlier also carbon dioxide increase. It is true, but life existed at that time, and for the past more than 10,000 million years, it has stabilized, and that created the life on the earth. That created the conditions where the agriculture can be done, where the food can be produced, etc., etc. So now we are trying to disrupt that balance, and the scenarios, the various scenarios says that. So if we really hit 8 point RCP 8.5, then I think I don't think any life will exist because we are reaching almost the same time before 400 million years. What conditions existed on the Earth? So we will reach that condition. Then and that time no life existed on the Earth. It was evolving. The Earth itself was evolving at that time. So at this stage, I just came across the words of His Holiness Dalai Lama, where he says, we have bigger houses but smaller families. It's true. Now, everywhere there are big houses, but only one or two people, that too, in their 70s or 80s, only are living in those houses. And more conveniences, but less time. I remember I used to walk 2.5 kilometers to catch the bus to go to college. And same or less time I have now when I get out and take the car and go somewhere. So now I have less time than that time what I had. So we have more convenience, but less time. We have more degrees, but less sense that we can see on the road itself. All are maybe PhD holders and MBAs or engineers, but we know how we are behaving there. And more knowledge, but less judgment. More efforts, but more problems. See, the more problems will create more experts as well. So that also is happening. And more medicines, but less healthiness. For everything, there are medicines, but everybody has health problems as well. And we have been to the moon and back, but have trouble crossing the street to meet the new neighbor. I don't know in Pune how easy it is. At least Bangalore, I know you cannot cross a street. And some places in Hyderabad also, you can't just cross the street. So that is the problem. And we have built more computers to hold more information, to produce more copies than ever, but have less communication. So we have become long on quantity, but short on quality. These times are times of fast foods, but slow digestion. Tall man, but short character. Steep profits, but shallow relationships. It is time when there is much in the window, but nothing in the room. These are just words of Dalai Lama. And I felt that how true he is. And actually, he's reflecting on the present condition of. So a few questions arises. Now we had to think. So is this a real development? First, we have development. We are seeing a lot of development around us. There is no doubt about that. But is this a real development? And is that what we want? Is what we want? The climate change, difficulty in living, or is what we want? And are we satisfied with the kind of development around us? I don't think if you ask anybody, even my grandson, who is only 5 years old, he also is not satisfied now itself. Sometimes he says, no, I want to, I don't want to sit here, I'm going. He will just get up and walk. So nobody is satisfied now. So are we satisfied? So if the answers to the above questions are no, then when and where did we go wrong? So that is the basic question. So where and when we went wrong in this? So I don't know whether any of you have answer yes for those three questions. If it is there, I would like to know. According to me, the answer is big no for all these three questions. So then the question is when and where did we go wrong? No doubt advancement and development are taking place, but not everything appears as positive, it seems. Air and water pollution, land degradation, calamities, etc., are growing alarmingly. You go to Delhi after November, everybody will be talking only about pollution. Many of the cities or anywhere, pollution, water pollution, and complaints about bad water, etc., are growing only. It is not going down. This suggests there are fundamental flaws. So that means the way we are conducting, there are something wrong. Otherwise, everything cannot go wrong just like that. So there are fundamental flaws, perhaps in our basic thinking and the way we perceive the world ourselves. So that's why there are either the way we are perceiving our world and we think that we are comfortable, but we are also feeling that trouble. So there is something fundamentally wrong. So my rest of my talk, I just want to reflect on what went wrong based on the thinking of other philosophers and thinkers. That's what I'm going to do now. So when we look at the world today, it's largely shaped by the Western worldview and Western model of development. Do you agree that? That's what it has happened. So though the quantum physics has advanced significantly, mostly our physics developed based on the Newtonian Cartesian framework. What Newtonian physics says, if you know the dynamics of anything which is working, and you can calculate this energy, calculate the force, you can make it working, isn't it? So you know the force, you know how much it will move. So that Newton gave us all those equations, how to do that. So that became the basic nature of our humankind to work on the science. And this model views world as a machine, one that can be understood by analyzing its energy and the laws that govern its functioning. The underlying idea is understand the mechanism and you can conquer the nature. So if you know the nature, how you can do, you can conquer the nature then, because that's why we try artificial rain and all those kind of things. Once we know that how to produce that rain, then we know how to where to rain, when to rain, etc., etc. So that thinking comes from this Newtonian mechanics, and as a result, humanity has been channeling its efforts and energy into trying to dominate nature rather than coexist harmoniously with it. So our all efforts were we had to dominate this. We should know how the nature is working, and uh, we should dominate the nature. We should dominate the world itself. And along with that, it promoted the idea that without struggle, there is no progress. So you have to struggle. Only thing is, depending on the context, that struggle sometimes becomes conflict. Now the struggle has become conflict in Israel and Gaza. That the struggle has become conflict between Russia and Ukraine, etc., etc., and strife and friction. That's what it happens. And this line of thinking also laid foundation for Darwin's theory of evolution, which says that the struggle for existence and the survival of the fittest. So, if I am strong, I can conquer you, and because I am only I am fittest because I am strong, so I can put you down. I can fight with you and eliminate you. So that is what that theory says. So that also went into the human mind, human thinking, that survival of the fittest. So that's why the stronger countries, they try to attack others or conquer the other weaker countries, etc., etc., is happening. And the third idea is uh, the satisfying the desires to achieve happiness. I am happy if I have a swanky car to drive. I am happy if I have a iPhone 16 now, and tomorrow I will be unhappy when 17 or 18 comes. So I have to get that. So these kind of desires that my happiness depends only on this kind of possessions, or I should get that. So for do that, I will adopt other methods because I cannot achieve otherwise. So that has made me happy, and that became the cornerstone of our entire thinking and our societal development itself. So as people pursued happiness through desire, and desires also grew exponentially, because as we desire more, it is not going to stop there. By iPhone 16, I am not going to be satisfied. When iPhone 17 or 18 comes, I want that. So my desire also keeps on growing. So I don't know how many of you have read that V.S. Khandelkar's novel Yayati. Yayati wanted to live youthful life, so for thousands of years, which is impossible. So he borrowed youth from his sons, youth from his grandchildren. So all that, and he left. He lived thousands of years a youthful life, but still he is not satisfied. Then Yayati says that satisfaction cannot be achieved through this, and nothing can be done. It is just like you are thinking that you are satisfying, but you are pouring the ghee into the fire. So you think that the fire will satisfy with that ghee and it will stop flaring up, but you are actually flaring that. So that is the situation with these desires. And to satisfy them, the world demanded more production because we need more. More people want more gadgets, more comfort, more vehicles, etc., etc. So production has to naturally, the production has to increase, and more energy is required. And to produce more energy, more resources are required, and continuous development of technologies, because it should be produced faster, produced more efficiently, and produced at a larger quantities. So new technologies are required. So science and technology has to be developed for that. So we kept on doing that. And today's world continues to operate based on the four cardinal principles mentioned above, and principles that have brought us to the current state of affairs with no clear revive in the site. That is where we are standing now. So, but luckily, some people are thinking in a alternate solution, or at least they are thinking why we landed here or what created us here. So it is encouraging that across the globe, a growing number of respected thinkers, social scientists, and historians are beginning to question these fundamental assumptions. So whether these four fundamental assumptions of desire and the looking at the world through the Newtonian kind of thinking and the survival of the fittest in the world these are correct things to do, because if I have strength, I can conquer somebody. So this is the right thing to do. So all those things are being thought. So that's led Professor Arnold Toynbee, one of the greatest historian and philosopher who lived in UK, and he was a professor at King's College and London School of Economics as a history professor. He wrote several seminal books. One of them is History of Mankind or something like that. And Daisu Ikeda, they discussed long time over several issues. It says 4 years they met several times and discussed about the issues which the humankind is facing, and they kept on discussing. And in fact, that those discussions are published as a book. This book is available on Amazon also. It is available about 600 rupees or 650 rupees. So I happened to find that, and anyway, now I am free to read other books other than oceanography and atmospheric science also. So I thought that let me read this, Choose Life. Okay, now of course, my life is ending, but I thought that maybe I can choose something now. So I read that, but it was a very interesting book where they discuss about the human thinking, how human races evolved, and how the cultural changes happened, etc., etc. And that book was published first in 1976 and reprinted in 2007 again. It's an interesting small book, actually, not very thick book. So there, Arnold Toynbee says that this problem has been created because of the Judaistic monotheistic thinking. Because as per that thinking, and he quotes chapter 1, verses 26-30 of the book of Genesis, where it says that God placed the whole of his non-human creation at the disposal of his human creatures to exploit it and exploit it in any way that they might choose. So that thinking brought this issue. That's what Arnold Toynbee says. And he further observes that the effect of this revolutionary doctrine was to disrupt the balance between man and his environment. Man was divorced from his natural environment, which was divested of its former aura of divinity. Man was licensed to exploit an environment that was no longer sacrosanct. So man got a license that these are all for you, and you can exploit that the way you want. But Ikeda questions him. He says that he asks, see this thinking, because this Judaic monotheism is much before even Jesus Christ or the common era. Sometime 9th century BC, this concept has come. But the problem started only sometime in 17th century, not before that. So though this thinking existed over to more than 2000 years, but the problem started only 300 or 350 years. So how you can blame that thinking which created this problem? So Toynbee explains to him, yes, that is true. It started in this this was put out sometime in 9th century BCE. But the problem was man didn't had that power that time. So that power man got only in sometime in the 17th century when science and technology developed. I'm not. It's not a blame on science and technology, but you didn't had that power. So though the desire was there, but how to do that, you didn't have that power. So that science and technological development gave him that power, the man. So the what he was desiring for the past nearly 200 years, he got that power. Then he started exploiting the nature and using the nature for his comfort and his desire to keep his desire happy. So that is what it has happened. That's what Toynbee says in that book. So Toynbee states that in order to save mankind from the consequences of technology inspired by greed, I believe that we need a worldwide cooperation among the adherents of all religions. Religion is meaning in a greater sense, not just in a narrow sense of religion and philosophies. I hope that Eastern religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Shintoism, etc., and philosophies will take the initiative in this. The adherents of Judaic religions are handicapped by their paralyzing tradition of exclusiveness and intolerance, which is part of the nemesis of their monotheism. So, this Eastern worldview should take care, and he expects that everyone will come together and again build a better world because they have that kind of worldview and thinking. At this context, it will be good to remember what Al Gore. He was the vice president of US during 1993, 2001. He was one of the proponents of climate change and a great supporter of climate change, a proponent of climate change. So he says, my fellow Americans, people all over the world, we need to solve the climate crisis. It is not a political issue; it is a moral issue. So, as per Arnold Toynbee as well as Al Gore, it is just viewing it as a scientific problem or engineering problem is not correct. It's a moral issue. Unless the moral of the human race changes, this issue we will not be able to tackle it properly. And he further remarked that we have been on the wrong path for the past 300 years, and we must look to the east for guidance. These are the words of Al Gore, who was the vice president of United States, and he wrote a book, An Inconvenient Truth. It's about the climate change, and that was made as an award-winning documentary film as well. So at this juncture, it will be good to look at what our philosophy says, our Indian philosophy says. So according to our worldview, the diversity is there in the world, but this diversity is part of, it is very superficial, and it is fundamentally is part of ultimate reality. Or there is only one thing in the world, and all these differences are part of that, nothing else it is. So you cannot, because my hand is part of my body, leg is my part of my body. So leg cannot conquer hand, or hand cannot conquer the leg. So that these are all part of a single truth or whatever ultimate reality is. And this advocates the philosophy of oneness, transcending division among humans, animals, birds, vegetation, mountains, rivers, and all other entities. It emphasizes the essential interdependence and cooperation necessary for coexistence, a principle beautifully expressed in Ishavasya Upanishad. So the Indian philosophy talks about this diversity, but says that the bird also is part of this. Animals are also part of this. Entire environment is part of this. So you cannot destroy one other. You have to coexist because these are diverse because of some purpose. That's all it is. Nothing more than that. So Ishavasya Upanishad says that Ishavidam Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkincham jagatam jagat. That is, whatever moves in the universe and whatever does not is pervaded by the divine. Therefore, enjoy through renunciation. Do not covet anyone's wealth. So this is the core philosophy which brought up our Indian setup. So a natural question arises. I'm sure most of the youngsters will tell, yes, this philosophy is good, but we need development, right? We have to develop. So if you had to develop, we had to do more mining, more cutting of the wood, more deforestation. All these things are required. That's what it will come. So a natural question that arises is whether the kind of development we see around us can be achieved through a philosophy that attributes the oneness of the universe. It is good for listening. That's all. Nothing more than that. Is it is practical? So there, I'm sure in your mind this question will come. Is it is practical? It is good, but it's not practical. And emphasize cooperation and coexistence as fundamental principles. A common reaction might be, yes, the philosophy sounds noble. So like we go to this satsang or some discourse of Swami, we listen, it's good. But after going back, we are back to our usual business. But in the pursuit of rapid growth, higher GDP, we are looking at higher GDP because now we are set our goals. By 2047, we should become a developed nation, and now we are third or fourth highest economy, and we want to make it that third soon. So our GDP has to increase. So and a large scale development, which demands significant resources. We need more resources for that. So it seems impossible to achieve progress by shifting to that path. So if we decide that everything is part of a same thing, it is oneness, environment, all these things, then we cannot achieve this. Do you think any of us can achieve? I don't think anybody can agree to that, right? I also thought that. With this approach, we are not going to achieve the progress. But then another report came to my notice, and this report was prepared for an organization called Economic Cooperation and Development, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. This only those developed countries or the largest economies of the world are part of this organization. So they found that things are very messy in the economy. The economy is not going well, and there are crashes and there are problems. So they asked one of the best economists of the time, Professor Agnes Madison, to study the economies and make a report. So this, on the request of OECD, he prepared this report, The Millennium History of the World Economy. He studied all the countries' economies for the past 1,000 years, 1000 AD to 2000. So 1,000 years he studied the economy of every country, including India, East Asian countries, Arab countries, Egypt, Greece, every European country as well as America and all these countries. And that report clearly shows how major shift in global economic power, particularly how Western Europe and its offshoots surpassed Asia and Africa. It's a very detailed report. In fact, that also is available on Amazon if somebody wants, but it's a little expensive. So I was a little hesitating to buy that. About 2,000 rupees or 2,600 rupees it costs. That book is available. Then I searched and I could find that report available online. You can also get that report on that OECD website. That report is available. And what that report says, The report says that there is a notable decline in India's share of global economy over time. And he estimates that India's share of global GDP was approximately 32% in 1000 AD and slightly reduced to about 25% in 1600 and 1700 AD when those invasions started in India. Sometime at that time, Alexander came, then other invaders came, etc., etc. So that time it slightly, of course, Alexander came in BC, not in AD. But other invasions started. So that time it went slightly down, but still quarter of the world economy, 25%. And when British colonial period ended, by 1950, we reached 4.2. And when British left, our economy was contributing only 3.7. That is what the what our economy did. And he also notes that he further observed that within a relatively short span of 80 years, that is 1780 to 1860 AD, under colonial rule, India underwent a dramatic transformation from being an exporter of processed goods. Remember that word, processed goods. So that means we were exporting the processed goods. So we had industries here. May not be those big industrial houses, big workshops, but every house was an industrial house in India. Every man was an engineer. Every person was producing something. So that kind of a production was happening in India. And processed goods for which it received payment in bullion is becoming an exporter of raw materials and an importer of manufactured goods. And that we are continuing even now also. We are now also we are importing the finished goods. Because we don't produce here. And maximum we can export iron ore, the raw materials. That's how we are doing even now also. But of course we are trying to change that. But this started from the British era onwards. So with that and all that achievement, we became 1/3 of the global economy when we followed our Ishavasya Upanishad. Our viewpoint was there. And thousands of years we did the agriculture. And there was no complaint that the agricultural land became a fallow land. Now, 50 years with modern technology, we did agriculture. And we say that now Punjab has become saline. Rajasthan, many parts have become saline. And with this modern technologies, we made within 50 years, not to even thousands of years. So that view, how we view the world, that makes that difference. So that so what does all this tells us? India and several East Asian countries achieved significant development and economic autonomy well before the imposition of Western worldview, which introduced a separation between humans and environment on us. The proof is very clear because our GDP was 1/3 of the world GDP in those days. And growth, progress, and sustainable development were indeed possible under Eastern worldview, which emphasized the philosophy of oneness, interdependence, and cooperation as the foundation for sustainable coexistence. Importantly, this philosophy was not merely theoretical, it was embedded in the daily life of the individual, society, kingdom, and the nation. Everyone followed that philosophy because it was a philosophy. Everybody followed. It was not just restricted to conferences or certain occasions alone. So for human progress, development, and economic autonomy are essential. There is no doubt about that. But they must not come at the cost of separating humans from the environment. The true growth, progress, and sustainable development are possible only through interdependence and cooperation. If sustainable development is our goal, then sustainable consumption must be our path. And that is one thing which I'm seeing that missing in those that vocabulary, or I don't think any of these conferences are discussing about what should be the sustainable consumption. That we never discuss. We always discuss about sustainable development and more production, more resources, more energy. Only those issues we are discussing. So, in my opinion, if we want to be achieve the sustainable development goal, then sustainable consumption should be our path. So, unless we adopt that, we cannot achieve sustainable development. We can only talk about sustainable development. So therefore, to achieve the goal of sustainable development, sustainable consumption must become our character, not merely policy. Because there's a saying in English, actually, honesty is the best policy. I don't know what kind of a humbug that is. Honesty is the best policy, because the policy can be changed, like government changes the policy. Now new education policy government has put out, maybe another 10 years the policy will change, or the policy can be changed. So if I say that honesty is the best policy, that is my policy, that means right now I am honest, so tomorrow I am not guaranteeing, I can change the policy. Actually, honesty should be my character, and that is what we should see. And we are not looking at that when we vote for our representatives. We are not looking at what is his character, whether by character he is honest or by policies. He'll tell that now elections are over, my policy changed. Now no more honesty is my policy. Your policy is a changeable thing. So that that usage itself is wrong in my opinion, and you don't use that anymore. That it is a deceiving statement that honesty is the best policy. Honesty should be the character of the man. That's what it should be. So it should be not just a policy. It should become our character. So that is what it is. So what we do, we are academics or scientists. So we will put our head in the sand और think that ये हमारा काम नहीं है और किसी को करने का है. Do we think that and we escape from this? I think then if we don't deliver a nation, a society that is competent and confident, reasonable and rational, ambitious and ethical, and we assume that social responsibility on ourselves. So we have to assume that nobody is going to issue a OM. Tomorrow, IITM director is not going to issue a OM that these are our duty. We have to assume that the social responsibility and adopt your regions, educate some areas through students, spread the message of oneness, interconnectedness, and necessity to coexist and cooperate. So unless we practice this, we spread this message, we are not going to achieve these targets, sustainable development or whatever it is. So then only the intellectuals will become a socially responsible citizenry and a driver of change. So as Dr. Mashelkar once told, what we need is not the right to education, right education and right way of education. That is what we need. It's not that right education, right to education. We need right education and right way of education. So if we leave this to the politicians, their time scale is only 5 years. Politician changes after 5 years. And if you leave to the bureaucrats, they are shuffled from one department to other every 2 years or 3 years. So who can make the long-term view? Only academics, only scientists, only academicians, thinkers in this society. They only can take a long-term view, how our society should go, how our country should go, and make that effort. Only we can do that. Nobody else can do that. So the purpose of science is to uncover fundamental laws that govern the universe using logic and evidence. That's what we do. As scientists, we explore the rules of nature and we must also abide by them. We will not only explore the rules of the nature, we should also abide by them. We should learn that nature works, and we should abide by that actually. Science has brought humanity unprecedented security and progress, but unhappiness and dissatisfaction have grown largely due to an unbridled greed for power and wealth, often pursued without due diligence, competence, or ethics, and through dubious or unethical means. That created all these problems for us. Science is a collaborative and incremental enterprise. It encourages cooperation. Cooperation fosters humility and nurtures hope. Ultimately, the education must serve as the mental training, a moral compass that guides individuals and society to be responsible, reasonable, respectful, and thereby also logical and ethical. So our education system should make us more moral oriented and ethical, resourceful, respectful, and ethical as well. So if we try to define then what is that education? So I was trying how we will define education. So I came across this actually, this was quoted by one Sri Suresh Soniji. He's a thinker of Bharatiya Darshan and social worker. At one of his discourses, he quotes some educationist, actually, Kaka Khalelkar. He is an educationist in Gujarat. I don't know much about him, but it attracted me. It says that the education is doing a self-introduction, where education says that मैं सत्ता की दासी नहीं हूँ, कानून की किंकरी नहीं हूँ, विज्ञान की सहायिका नहीं हूँ, कला की परिचारिका नहीं हूँ, अर्थशास्त्र की बंदिनी नहीं हूँ. That's what education is. Education is not slave to the government, slave to anyone else. मैं धर्म का पुनरागमन हूँ. Education is it's dharma or the rule of nature. It's पुनरागमन हूँ. मानव की बुद्धि, हृदय और इंद्रियों की स्वामिनी हूँ. मानव शास्त्र और समाज शास्त्र ये मेरे दो चरण है. कला और कार्यकुशलता ये मेरे दो हाथ है. विज्ञान मेरा मस्तिष्क है. इतिहास मेरे कान है. धर्म मेरा हृदय है. उत्साह और उद्योग ये मेरे दो फेफड़े है. स्वतंत्रता मेरी सांस है. श्रद्धा मेरा चैतन्य हूँ. इसलिए मैं जगत दात्री हूँ, जगदम्बा हूँ. इस संसार में जो कोई भी मेरे उपासक है, मेरी कृपा से उसकी सभी आवश्यकताएं पूर्ण होगी. So that is what education is. Education is supposed to build that character, build that confidence, build that ethics in each of us. So whether that is being done today, that's what now we should think about. So the education should be a lifelong process of self-realization and character formation, amid at following, unfolding the full potential of the individual in harmony with the truth, society, and nature. It is not merely the accumulation of information or vocational training, but a transformative journey towards wisdom, ethical living, and inner freedom. That should be the education. So we need an education system that is not confined to schools and colleges alone. It must also include social service organizations, homes. Every home should be an education center. Every home we have something to learn. And with every sphere of life, one that can spark a true revolution. Then only this revolution can be brought in. So this is from where I stole that title. Once our famous scientist Albert Einstein says that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So if you try to solve the climate change issue with the same thinking what we created that, I don't think we can. So that's why I coined that title as can we overcome climate change with the same thinking that created us. So that is a source from where I have stolen that title and coined that title. So to sum up, the evidence is clear. The time for action is now. Unless we act now, I don't think we can win this war anytime. So, Project sir, I was greatly benefited and motivated by the thought-provoking talk of Sri Suresh Soni, a freelance speaker and speaker on topics like Bharatiya Darshan, National Vision, Vigyan, Vedic knowledge, education, etc. So that made me to think in that direction and look at some of these reports and books. Anyway, now I have more time to do what I want to do. Of course, earlier also I was doing what I want to do, but now I'm not. I did not give reports to the director now, so I engage in more of this general reading of the books. And these are the thoughts I thought that I will just put to you, just to tickle your thoughts, thinking process. So if you like, you can think in that direction. Otherwise, you can just dump it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for this thought-provoking talk. Let's open the floor for some discussion here.
Thank you for your, I should not say lecture, it's words of wisdom.
It's just my thoughts I put there.
Yeah, that's, I think very rarely or never at all we discuss such ideas or such topics while discussing scientific the problems and the solutions, if you want to say them solutions. Sometimes on the similar lines, I feel that people say man is becoming more civilized. I think man is becoming more uncivilized.
That's what Dalai Lama also says.
I think for example, from scientific point of view, take it that man polluted air, water, noise pollution, and now he's spending thousands of lakhs of dollars on solving how to purify them. And purify the environment. You spoiled it, and now you want to, and you do not know. I think there is lack of will. No, for example, air pollution. It is not that it is not known that how can it be purified. How we can become to the zero stage when everything was fine in the environment. But we don't have the will. No, during the unfortunate period of COVID, this air pollution reduced, global pollution reduced. Nature itself told that this is the solution. And we know that this is the solution. Still, number of vehicles are being increased, number of roads over roads, flyovers. Is that the way to solve it? You keep increasing the sources of pollution and then making noise that it is increasing. So that's why I say man is becoming more uncivilized. All this, we created a large number of hospitals and how a man can save life. And more than that, we created more money to spend on how to kill the man. Is that the solution?
Yes, that's what we do actually.
I don't know. So I really appreciate your lecture. I think such ideas must be kept in mind when people are discovering the new things, and I enjoyed that.
Really, really very thought-provoking talk. Very, but the thing is, so how do we solve it? How do we approach this problem? Because as one or two individuals,
Yes.
so we can only give a talk or write a book. But how do we solve it? Because changing people or their desires, so it will be difficult. But how do we go about it? Do you have any larger plan? Like, because as a one or two individuals, I think it will be difficult to put into people's mind. Because now, if you look at the people, not only the older people, even younger people have more greed. And so how do we make them realize that where this will all will end up?
Yeah, at least we should start thinking in that direction. I don't think there is a quick solution for this, or in a short time we can achieve. So first thing is our education itself should be more moral oriented, ethic oriented. So now we are living in a society which has no ethics. Or at least when I say I feel that I am ethical, all of you are not ethical. But truth is that everyone is unethical, because to achieve my desire, I will go to any extent, same as everyone. So how to change this? So that change slowly it can be brought through education, the moral responsibilities, ethical responsibilities, etc., etc. And we have a history of that. So it will be very easy, much easier for us than the Western world to go back to that. At least if we acknowledge that we had this kind of thinking, and we can say that we went on a wrong path. Wrong path can be corrected, but if somebody don't know the correct path, where to go? So I think we are the people who can start that this kind of a thinking and put out and make others also to. But for that, first we had to show the example.
Another point, there are two thinking now. The one is that the people are migrating to cities, and this becomes a habit now.
Yeah.
So it's like slowly, if you closely look at them, and it's happening in large scale now. Slowly, the people will migrate to city, and then there's another level of migration from economically poor countries to better countries, and it may happen that there will be a mass movement towards the cities and the economically prosperous countries. For example, there will be a situation that the US government cannot do anything by stopping the mass movement to US. So no immigration, nothing, no immigration officer can stop that. So that type of movement may take place. One thing.
So I think we have to look at the basic problems. See why people are migrating to the cities, because they don't have a source of income in the rural areas. Agriculture is not possible, because we first told them, you do the agriculture this way, you will get more. So they did that. And now the land has become less profitable. They are losing the job. So they are coming to the cities. So we have to look at that basic problem. What mistake? See, unless we identify and acknowledge what mistake we did, we cannot correct the mistake. So that At least my thinking was that let's identify the mistake, and we should acknowledge that yes, we made that mistake. Then only we can decide that okay, we will correct that mistake.
Migrate to the moon also.
Yeah, that is started. Not only moon, all other planets.
I just had one question that you said GDP of 1,000 years back is India 32.
Yeah.
How is this calculation done by that?
Oh, he gives all the details there. This, it's a big report, and he gives all those tables, etc. So he gives the methods also. Or at least he talks. Of course, I can't understand only the economist can understand that language. It's a detailed report actually.
And one more thing, India might have all the technologies also.
Yes.
Because we have evidence, like, there are many evidences like the Tanjavur temple, for example. So how did they build those things without any technology? So there must have been technologies, but somehow the invaders, they destroyed our documents.
Yeah.
Documents are not available. That could be one reason. Technology. Otherwise, the 32% contribution is not possible.
Now there is no point in we say that we had that. At least we look at that and we be confident about that. We are not the people who cannot do anything.
Correct.
So that confidence itself has to be brought back in the society that we can do that and we did this. So that awakening has to come. That will be the first step itself. Once that awakening comes, then I think, see, even now also our present generation, slowly I think it is, see, in the guest house itself, I met one young fellow. He just took some new job. The kind of confidence he has is much more than what I had at his age. So I'm happy that way, that now that thinking is slowly changing now. Now, if you talk to the college students, see, one of my friend, his grandson, he completed his BE. So he just, I met him, but he just came to meet, give us something at our home. So I asked him, now BE you are completing. So what is your next plan? Going for MA or, and it's natural in Hyderabad to go abroad, one of the US universities. That is the usual this. So I asked him, are you going abroad? And he says, no, uncle, we are in our college, that incubation center, we set up a startup and we want to set up a startup company. And now he has hired a place in near that cyber tower and they are doing well now. So that comes because I wouldn't have had that courage to do in after my college days. So that thinking is changing actually. So that's a good sign.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, sir. A very thought-provoking presentation. So I particularly like the idea of sustainable consumption before moving to sustainable development. And in one of your slides, you mentioned, I guess, one philosopher told that the Western world should look to the East. But now what is happening is Eastern countries are looking towards the West.
Exactly.
So where does this idea of sustainable consumption go now? Because the Western economies have been consumption oriented in the past. And now if East is following the West, so where do you see that in order to go for sustainable development later?
At least we know that we can contain our consumption. At least we know. Once we demonstrate that, then West also will follow us then. And how we'll achieve, just tell me, unless you contain your consumption, sustainable way of consumption. See, sustainable consumption means what? Everything I should not consume. I should leave something for my son and grandchildren also. That's the sustainable consumption now. So without that, what sustainable development I am talking? So all these conferences are talking about sustainable development, forgetting that how we will achieve that. So it becomes a mere hollow talk about sustainable development. Sustainable consumption is the core of sustainable development. Unless we accept that and strive towards that, how we will achieve sustainable development? Unless there is some infinite source which will keep on supplying. It's not there.
It is a big challenge for the young generation.
Any others? You said that Arnold Toynbee's hypothesis that Zurich monoism, it is the root cause of this kind of thinking that human beings should get his benefit by exploiting the environment and other animal kingdom, etc. But this kind of thought, he said that its origin is more than 2000 years ago. But this was promoted by any other religion or any other thinkers that Toynbee has mentioned?
Became the core of the Western worldview. I don't blame any religion, or I don't want to discount the religions or blame anyone. But that became the core of the Western worldview, that this world is for our consumption, and I can exploit that. So it gave me a license. So that earlier everybody considered it as nature also as divine, everything is divine. So that separated that philosophy separated that togetherness, and it made that this is for my consumption. So when the food is served there for my consumption, I eat that food. That's the core of the Western worldview or the philosophy. And the Indian
practice is going today also. Same practice is going today.
Yes.
Anyone else has anything to add to the discussion? If not, let's all thank Dr. Shenoi